Hi, I'm Helen, and welcome to the Gone Potty Kitchen. It's Christmas Eve in the year 2020. What a year it's been for many of us. And I'm just going to enjoy myself in the kitchen. And because I have a primarily plant-based diet, I am making a recipe that I made last year, and it is thanks to Richard and Paul. So if you want all the ingredients and the how-to and the video, please do go and visit their YouTube channel, Richard and Paul, and do a search for nut roast because it's absolutely lovely. And I did it last year and it was fabulous. And it makes so much. You can slice it up and freeze it. But I'm using their recipe because it is so good. But I'm going to add a little twist as well. You see, it does require red wine. And I didn't quite have enough. And we don't really drink apart from good coffee. That always goes down very well. And I don't quite have enough. So what I'm actually doing is I'm going to make it a little bit Christmassy by adding some frozen cranberries to also not just add cranberry and cranberry flavour for Christmas, but to add up for the missing liquid in the, shall we say, the lack of vino in the Gone Potty household. So that's a little bit different to the traditional recipe, but that's just me. But the basis is fabulous, and it is the best nut roast I've ever tasted. And the other thing I'm going to do is I have to make a substitution. So normally you'd use gram flour, which is chickpea flour, as you may know. Haven't got any, so I'm going to pulse some oats into an oat flour. And instead of using mixed herbs from the jar, I'm going to be using some fresh from the garden, and I'll pulse them in with the oats to make the oat flour. So that's what I'm going to do now. So stick your fingers in your ears. It's going to get noisy in a minute.
So what are you putting in there now, Helen?
This is the thyme.
Mm-hmm. Is that our own thyme?
Yeah. Ooh. I thought, we do have the mixed herbs, and of course that's perfect because it's a perfect blend, and that works really, really well. But because we've got our own herbs, I thought, well, why not? So I'm just getting as much as I can off the woody stems, and that's going in. And I love it when we can use our own things. In this recipe, there's, carrots and onions and all those things Jackie's grown, and nuts and seeds and chestnuts and nutritional yeast. Of course, there's the wine, and there's some miso in there, and some, what do you call it? It's like, I forget. I'm going to have to look on my iPad. Yeast extract.
And look at those lovely carrots. They're from the garden.
Those are Jackie's carrots. We're going to grate those in a little bit. So I think, when you just get the fresh herbs, and it's delicious. Dear me. Okay, now, if you decide to do this recipe, as I say, hop over, because I'm not going to list the ingredients because they're all on Richard and Paul's channel. But hop over, and if you really love it like we do, and if you love nut loaf, this is like, the queen of nut loaves. And what I would say is, which I'm going to do after I've made this one, is you can buy them a coffee. So they've got a little link on their channel just to say thanks. Because I think particularly this year, so many have had their, I suppose people feel freedoms curtailed, don't they? Or some have lost their jobs, sadly. Some have very sadly lost their lives. And it's a sad year for us as well, because this year I lost my mum, and we miss her very much. So it's really, weird. For a lot of people, it's going to be the first year where they're not either seeing or calling someone and wishing them happy Christmas like they always used to. So, yeah, it has been a tough year, but I think if we can all do our little bit and show appreciation, gratitude, and we get it back in bucketfuls. That's the way I look at it. But I think when you have to give to receive, don't you? And you have to give back. So here we go with the very noisy food processor to make the flour part, which is, in my case, it's oat flour. I did have gram flour. God knows what I did with it, but I think Jackie cleaned out the cupboards, and that's the problem.
Blame me.
Yeah. So here we go. One big pulse. Actually, I think needs a little bit more. So that looks like a flour, and we've got the herbs in there as well, the fresh ones, or you can use, which are just as good really, the mixed herbs. It's just outside the kitchen door we've got them, so let's use them. Okay, so that is the flour. Now, what did I do? Oh, there's my dish to put it in, with flour with herbs. You'll see as we cook it when that goes in. Excellent. So that's instead of the ground flour. And I'm going to put that next to the nutritional yeast. You probably could mix it all up, but we'll do it one bit at a time.
It's a good compromise, isn't it?
What's that?
The oats.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in a sense, because of seeds and nuts, the chickpea flour would be, I suppose, a little more proper. And we know it works.
Yeah.
And we know the flavour, which will have come from that, is part of the chemistry of it also. We know it's all really good, but we just can't find it. So that's what we're doing. Okay, I'm going to have a sip of coffee. Oh, no, it's a bit hot. What I'm going to do now is I'm just going to pulse these mushrooms up so they're in little bits. And that's what I did there. Now, you could use chestnut mushrooms, which I do love chestnut mushrooms, but they only had the white ones. But the Irish mushrooms here are grown locally, so when we get them from the local shop, they're really pretty fresh. So let's get that going. Might not work if I don't have that. You know, elf and safety and all that at Christmas. Right. Elf and safety. Elf and safety. Your Christmas elf. Does do a good job, but I've got to scrape it down. So I've broken up the mushrooms, and as I say, all the quantities you'll find on Richard and Paul's site. And I'm just going to scrape them now onto a plate, really. I don't think I need, oh yes I do. Ignore me, I'm talking to myself and I'm talking absolute, well, probably shouldn't say it. But anyway, bollocks. No, so this is, it's really nicely mushed down, which is good. There's, one of the things that's important about the recipe is you do stick to it, because you have to make sure the water quantity within the loaf when it's baking is right, so it sets, and when you take it out it doesn't fall apart. Now, I've only made the loaf once and it worked perfectly because I followed it to the letter, the recipe to the letter. But the big problem we've got is I am diverging a little bit today with cranberries and stuff. Now, the next thing I want to do, that is mushy mushroom, blended raw. So that's the mushy mushroom.
Yeah.
I just put that on there because it's got some mushroom on it. Now what I've got to do is I've got to blitz the nuts and the seeds. And the chestnuts in this recipe, Jackie has just mashed. They're vacuum packed and they're very soft. It's not worth, blitzing them. It's easier just to mash them. There's loads of pumpkin seeds in here and walnuts and almonds. Love almonds. They're so good. And walnuts, good for the brain. Loads of omega-3s. Look like a brain. Good for the brain, as we've said before. So I'm going to blitz those. And the other thing I'm going to do, which is interesting, is we've got this organic carrageenan, which is a seaweed, and it's often used as a gelling agent, a natural gelling agent. And there are places up here in the west of Mayo where, what's the matter, Jackie?
It's him.
What's wrong with him?
All you can hear is tap, tap, tap.
Yeah, you will hear the dogs tap dancing, and the reason for that is they're hoping, which is quite a common thing with me, is that I'll drop things. That's why. And then they've got extra food. So it's the only time I can get Benny in the kitchen is when I'm cooking. So I'm going to put a little bit of carrageenan. Now the other thing about that is obviously I don't want it to set like a massive jelly, but it does give it a little bit more setting power. You could use flax seed and make flax egg if you want. It doesn't really need it because the binder is the flour. But I'm just going to put a little bit of that in, mainly for the reason that it's so healthy for you. It's full of trace elements, minerals, and we don't have any nuclear power plants on our shore at this end, so it should be good. So you do need to soak it. Normally you'd soak it in a little bit of water. It's going in the wine solution. Let's give that a little bit of stir. So Christmas Eve 2020. What's your favourite thing to do, Jackie, on Christmas Eve?
Well, I've always liked to get the vegetables prepared.
Yeah.
I like to do the potatoes.
Yeah.
Get all the starch out, get everything ready.
Yeah.
So that actually on Christmas Day, there's a lot less to do. And
it's just bish bash bosh and you got Christmas dinner, yeah.
I think today I'm going to clear the table and put the Christmas tablecloth on.
Yeah.
And that'll be sort of pottering around today.
We could just call it the tablecloth because we never have a tablecloth throughout the year, do we? No. Apart from Christmas Day. Yeah. Well, I'm going to blitz these and then I'll tell you what I love doing on Christmas Eve. So there we have all the blitz nuts and seeds. So that's really lovely. I'm going to add those in with the chestnuts because they're in a nice big bowl, and I'm going to need this because next I've got to blitz some celery and garlic, and then I've got to grate the carrot. And of course you can do it by hand, but I've got the food processor out, so I'm just going to do that. So there's a lovely big bowl there of the blended, the smashed up, whatever you want to call it, the blitzed nuts, seeds, and I've mixed it in the big bowl with the mashed chestnuts. So that's our nut base to it. So now we'll move on now to doing the carrots and the celery and the garlic. So catch you in a minute. Okay. Right, now we're now on to the next stage, and I've got the grating attachment on the food processor. Of course you can do this all by hand, but you know, I find it quite challenging. So I have a tremor, so it's easier for me to use the machine safely than it is to be doing it by hand and grating my fingers as well. So you know, you find a way, you adapt, don't you? And this is my way of adapting. So I'm going to grate the carrots and the celery, and I've got some garlic cloves in there. Now, of course, you can just chop up the celery and the garlic cloves really small. But as I say, I'm working with my challenges, and I'm going to do it this way. Hopefully it'll all be all right, but I'm pretty sure it'll be okay. It all goes in the pan together. So long as we leave enough time for the evaporation of the water, it won't be too runny and it will set in the oven. So yeah, that's the challenge. But I was going to tell you what I like doing on Christmas Eve. And Christmas Eve now is not Christmas Eve unless I get on my computer and I follow Santa on NORAD. I know it's sad, but I did actually wonder this year, will he have a face mask?
Yeah.
So now I'm going to grate the carrots, and Benny's going to accompany me. So let's put this on, a bit of noise or music or something, or fast forward, I don't know what our editor-in-chief Jackie is going to do with it yet. Here we have the, what's it called, Jackie?
Carrots.
Oh yeah, carrot celery. And garlic, all grated. And that's all going to go in the pan in a minute. So that's all very lovely. Yes, so NORAD tracks Santa. How sad of me, but I love it. And I think it's just the kid in me. And when it first came out, I was probably in my early 40s, and it was magical. So there we go. The child in all of us, that's what Christmas is about, isn't it? So I'm going now to get rid of the, I was going to say word processor.
Oh.
The food processor. I'll tell you another vital ingredient I forgot to tell you, and it's my iPad, which if I do get stuck and Jackie's not here to prompt me, I've got it all copy and pasted onto. So put that on the ingredient list, vital iPad or tablet or piece of paper, whatever you've written it on. So I'm going to get rid of this now, and I'm going to bring up the halogen hot plate to start cooking. And that's when it gets really exciting, isn't it, when you're cooking? So I'll see you when I've got that up. Okay, so we're back now, and I'm going to add the oil, and there's a couple of tablespoons of water that go in there. So that's already there.
Have you got that oven, the induction hob, is it on high?
No.
Oh.
All the information is on Richard and Paul's how to do it, but it's kind of a medium heat. Yeah. But one thing I did that was a bit naughty was I shouldn't really have done the carrots and celery together. That's not in the recipe, so fingers crossed it turns out okay. But I'm going to put the onions in now, and we just want to soften everything at the moment. So in they go.
Onions all smell nice when they start cooking.
They do, and you know what I love? Is I love the sizzle. I love that sort of sizzling when they go in, and they're just now gonna soften down. Don't need to brown anything really, just soften it down. So there they go, they're They're just softening nicely. So I'll pop that there. And then when they've done for a little bit of time, I'm then going to have to add the celery and garlic and stuff. But hey, we're getting there. We're getting there. Now what I have done is in this particular recipe, I've used sesame oil instead of olive oil. So that's something I've diverged on. But so long as I know the basic recipe is as it should be, I'm hopeful we're going to be fine. So
Smells lovely, that sesame oil, though.
Doesn't it? Yeah, that toasted sesame oil. So that's a nice thing to do. So that is just nicely softening, and I'm just going to leave that for a few minutes while it does that before we add the next part. Great, so now the onions are nicely softening, I'm going to add some bouillon powder and mix all that together. But I mean, all the instructions are on Richard and Paul's site, but that's what I'm doing. And then I'm going to put the lid on and put it on very low for a few minutes so it all just infuses beautifully. So that's that in there.
All the smells.
Oh no, it's lovely, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's looking good as well. So I just pop that on there with other food because it's all going to be cooked together. I'm going to pop that on, and I need to put that on low, so that's on the very lowest setting this can be on.
The induction hob is really handy, isn't it? So you use the big oven and you've got
Definitely. I love it, and I think it's more economical than the hob we've got anyway, but probably not too much. But to be honest, I really like it, and it's really handy. And of course, next year, if your sweet corn grows well, we can take it out there, plug it into the outside extension, and we can get the pan boiling with all the water, and just pick the sweet corn, shuck them, and then chuck them in the pan.
You have to be careful, don't you? There's only certain pans work on them. So.
Yeah, we had a nice set of copper pans, and you can't use them because it's induction. It inducts, I suppose, with copper too much. But I mean, a lot of them stainless steel, iron. I'm not sure about iron actually. I'm not sure about iron, but most pans work on it. But you definitely can't with copper. So if you get one of these little ones, make sure that your pans, or you've got a pan that works, that says it works on an induction hob. Yeah. So now we've got to the stage where the mixture has cooked through with all the liquid and that. It's now sticking to the bottom of the pan, so I have to turn it off, and that's going to allow it to cool down and some of the moisture to evaporate and make it a little bit more compact. When it's cooled down, I then add the flour and mix that in. Then it will go in the loaf tins, and then it will go in the oven. So I'll be back with you as soon as that's nice and cool and we're ready to get it in the oven. So I've interluded for a bit, and while I've been interluding, the mixture has been cooling down. It's now time to add the flour. And while I was interluding, I took advantage of the time to check up on NORAD and where Santa was, because NORAD Santa's the real Santa, the real genuine one. And I was curious, and you might have remembered me saying, but I was really curious, and he actually is wearing a face mask. So Jackie's going to put a screenshot up of when I was checking up on Santa, and yes, Santa is wearing a face mask. But I have to say I was a bit disappointed because the reindeers aren't socially distancing, but never mind. It looks lovely. Perhaps reindeers are immune, I don't know. But yeah, anyway, so Santa's doing his bit, And we've also, while I'm mixing in this flour, we have also lit a little candle here just to remember all those loved ones, and even the loved ones we didn't know who haven't made it to this Christmas. And a big thank you. The candle burns bright for all those workers on the front line who did everything they could to keep us safe and put themselves at risk as well. So that little candle's just going to stay burning until it's gone. But we want you to know we haven't forgotten you and how important you are to us. So thank you. And may the lights burn brightly for everyone now and beyond. To infinity and beyond, as Buzz Lightyear would say. But, you know, it's from the heart, we mean it. So that's all mixed well, the flour's mixed in. What's the key now is to make sure it is well packed in to the loaf tins. Well, we haven't got the tins, but we've got the silicone ones, and we did use them last year, and they worked out very well. But it's very important that everything's compacted down. And they'll go in the oven for around 40 minutes at 170, but we'll check on them. And about halfway through, I just might open the oven door a little bit to let out any excess moisture so that it sets nicely. So let's see how we go here. That's all right now, I can put that there. And I'm going to bring that up here and start filling the tins. Well, tins, you know. The silicone. Let's see how much we go. What I found last year with the size that we've got here at Eagle Lodges, there was too much for one, and it just made a smaller, thinner one in the second, so that's fine.
Looks like quite a lot of it, doesn't it?
It's looking pretty good, isn't it, so far? So what I've got there, I'm just going to pat right down. And when you watch the original recipe with Richard and Paul, he talks about having to make sure it's well compacted into the corners. And that is important. So I'm making sure it's well squashed down. And let that settle a bit in case there's any air pockets, and I'll come back and give it another squash before it goes in the oven. Right, let's get you in. I thought some of that went over the side then. So yeah, we hope you're all going to have a good Christmas, and I know it is different for a lot of you, and you can't all be together as you used to be perhaps, and you know, it's the same here in Ireland, and you know, it's really sad, but the main thing is keeping safe, isn't it? Keeping yourself safe and everyone else safe, and that's all that really matters when it comes to it. You know, we can have another Christmas if we need to. We can celebrate in the summer, or whenever things are a little bit easier to get together, whenever that will be. I think that's it, isn't it? It's the uncertainty. What do you think, Jack?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a long year, really, hasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
You know, and we've still got more to come. I mean, it's bound to affect people.
Definitely.
In different ways.
And look, you know, I haven't got all the numbers, but please look up the numbers if you're struggling and need someone to talk to.
Definitely.
Don't let it get on top of you. If you're on your own and you need to talk to someone, there's Samaritans and lots of other organisations that are absolutely brilliant, and they don't close down. So you don't have to feel alone. You don't have to be alone in a sense. There's always someone to talk to, isn't there?
And you can always join us on the Facebook page of Gone Potties.
Yeah,
We
subscribe.
always talk to you in Messenger if you're not, you know, if you need someone to talk to. The link for the Gone Potties page is in the description.
we can't, we do our best and we can't promise it's instant, but we never ignore anyone, so might not get back to you straight away, but we will get back to you. So here we are. Here's both the loaves. And they're going to go into our oven for 40 minutes or so. Oh, there's a little bit extra there. Not going to waste any of it at all. I'm hoping that's well compacted enough in the corners. And we'll have a look at them when they're done. And then when they're cooled completely, fingers crossed, because I have diversified a bit. I've had a bit of a diversion from, not much, but a little bit of diversion from the original recipe that works extremely well. So just didn't manage to have all the ingredients in. So hopefully that will be utterly delicious. It won't fall apart. We'll see. And I'm going to put that in the oven now, so see you later. Well, here we are with the loaves, the nut loaves.
Da-na.
Ta-da! So when they look nice and biscuity brown on the top, then they're generally ready. And they've got to cool down completely. And then what I'll do is I'll just very gently with a very thin knife go around the edge. I'll put a board on top and then I'll flip it over, and hopefully it all stays as a loaf shape. It did last year. I have deviated a little bit, so we don't know, but either way it tastes nice. And you know what, even if it falls apart, it's brilliant. It's got almost like a meaty texture, hasn't it? Sort of almost like mincemeat texture. So
Helen likes it.
I love it. And I mean, it doesn't taste like meat, which is what I want. Plant-based, so it's perfect. So I'm very happy with that. They look good. I'm sure they taste good. And yeah, what do you think?
I think they look really good. You've done really well.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Right, so we hope you have a really wonderful Christmas.
Absolutely.
And a fabulous New Year. And I think that's just about it, really. Oh, apart from, don't forget to hit subscribe, subscribe, hit the bell, thumbs up.
It all helps the channel grow.
It all helps the channel grow.
And you make the channel grow, so thank you.
Thank you.
Anyway, we're having a quiet Christmas. It's just the two of us this year. So, and we'll be back with the garden videos just after Christmas. There'll be loads. So, we'll catch you all then. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Why not come and join me on Facebook or Instagram? The link is in the description.